Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's coaching session on supporting your surrogate. We'll just wait a moment for anyone to join that maybe just trying to get into the link. I hope you're all well today. I want to say it's Wednesday. It's been a busy week. Yes, it is Wednesday. I want to also acknowledge that we likely have intended parents here who are matching in a first match, in a second match, some who are currently looking at surrogates. So as I speak about this process and showing up and supporting your surrogate, please know that if the situation I'm discussing doesn't apply to you and you'd like to have a more personal conversation about supporting your surrogate, please do let me know. Send me an email, and I would love to, to give you some feedback on that. Just wait one more minute. If you do have any technical issues or any questions, please pop them into the comment section. I will be more than happy to answer them. And Aaliyah, if you can type something into the comments, maybe a welcome, so that people know that you are here, or that we are here to help them with any sort of tech issues or to answer their questions. Okay, so I want to start off by saying that supporting your surrogate, while a lovely idea, is absolutely impossible to do if you are not first supporting, caring, and taking care of yourself. And so I break that down into agreements. And if you're in a partnership, the first agreement to make is with yourself around this journey. And then the second agreement is to make with your partner. And then at that point, it becomes boundaried and easier, not easy, but easier to make agreements, negotiate, support your surrogate through the process. And when I talk about this, I really want to start by saying that getting clear on the agreement you have with yourself before you start your journey is key to a boundaried relationship in which you're able to support your surrogate and that you are able to support one another if you have a partner, or practice good self-care so that when your baby does arrive, that you are not exhausted. Or you may be exhausted, but emotionally, I hope that you will be less exhausted by putting these practices in place early. So when I talk about agreements with yourself, those agreements may be that I will, if I were an intended parent, I would make an agreement with myself that I will check my gut, check my instinct on every decision I make, that I will not rush decisions, that I will be thoughtful in my process, that I will walk through this journey with integrity and show up as who I am. And then in making the agreement with your partner, that they've made that agreement for themselves and that you can make that agreement together. And so what the agreements together would look like, is that you would select a surrogate together. I've seen many relationships really struggle when intended parents match with a surrogate and maybe she doesn't get pregnant, or maybe the match breaks. And one spouse calls me and says, I knew we shouldn't have picked that surrogate and my spouse pushed me. And so if we have that agreement with ourselves that we're not going to be pushed, we're going to say, no, this doesn't align with my values, my beliefs around termination, type of contact, whatever that is. Then if you've made that relationship with with yourself, with your partner, easy to make with an agency, and to say, no, thank you for sending me that profile, but no, it's not a fit. It doesn't align. And so once you've made those with yourselves and you move on to, you've made those agreements and you move on to a surrogate, and your agency sends you a surrogate, and on paper it aligns, and you are introduced. What does supporting your surrogate or showing up for her look like? I want to be really clear here that we value and support big relationships. And we want you to have a big relationship. And we also recognize that's different for everyone. And in 18 years of experience, my advice is to go slow. Go slow. So when you match and your surrogate asks you about the clinic, that's a great question. You know, I think someone at the agency will know that information. Your job is to support her in the relationship you have. Okay. Um, if the surrogate asks you about reimbursements, like, how do I get money when I have an appointment? Great question. The agency will be able to answer that for you. Would you like to reach out to them, or do you want me to reach out to them and ask that someone reaches out to you? Because if you start spreading yourself thin and becoming a clinic liaison and a finance person and all of these pieces, it becomes very difficult to manage your relationship, because now you're all over the place rather than here and here in your relationship. So really, really focusing on the relationship. And, support looks different to other people. So, oh my gosh, sorry, my nose is very itchy. So as you're beginning to communicate, asking your surrogate, hey, how would you like us to communicate to you? Do you like text? Do you like email? WhatsApp? I would veer away from Facebook or social platforms. And here's why. If your relationship doesn't work out, or if it does, and you go through embryo transfers that aren't successful, and you move on and she moves on, and she ends up with a couple and gets pregnant, and you may not, and you're watching her journey unfold more quickly than yours is, it may be painful, or vice versa. If you are worried about her feelings, which many intended parents are, and you get pregnant right away with a new surrogate and she doesn't, and she has to watch that, it can become very difficult. So my suggestion always is, support means boundaries. Support means setting up a mechanism by which you can communicate, you can show up for her, and you can have a boundary. And so for a lot of intended parents, that boundary is, let's get on WhatsApp. Let's get on WhatsApp. We don't have our phone number there because we don't want anyone to know our number. Or let's get on email only because we don't even have WhatsApp and we're not going to give out our phone number. And that's okay too, because showing up for her starts with showing up for yourself and your own boundaries. Once you're further down the track and she's medically screened and, legals are done and you're getting pregnant, that's different. You may move your boundary and you may move what support looks like. So that would be my first suggestion in terms of meeting. In terms of screening, so you've met, communication's lovely, you're communicating regularly, and now the fertility clinic is sending out an email to her. You've confirmed your match, she's confirmed the match, and you guys all get an email and it says, hey, Jenny, we'd love to have you come on February 15th for an appointment at 2:00. And she immediately texts you and says, oh my gosh, like February 15th, that doesn't work for me. I don't want to let you guys down. I really, the way you'd show up for her is, wow, okay. We've had dealings with our clinic before and we know there's some flexibility. Would the 16th or 14th work? And she says, oh, the 14th. And so you could reply to the email and say, hey, the 15th doesn't work, because it's a real time thing. It's not random questions. It's an actual, pointed process. It's, it's happening. Screening's next. Let's do it. Hey, could it be the 14th or the 17th, 15th, 18th, whatever the date is. With that being said, if you aren't comfortable with that and you've been in touch with my staff and you know that Megan does all our clinic management, an email to Megan, because Megan will be on that email, reply all, hey, Megan, our surrogate says that date doesn't work for her. Can you coordinate another date? She said this date and that date, right? And then Megan will take care of that at the clinic. again, really important that um, that you support your surrogate like that, with something concrete and an actual appointment date. Um, does anyone have any questions about the screening process and sort of how to show up for your surrogate? If so, please feel free to put them in the comment section. Okay. So the next piece is, intended parents often ask, should I be at the screening? Does showing up for my surrogate mean being at the screening appointment? Now, if you live in the same city as your clinic, absolutely being there. COVID's over, people are allowed into the clinic, definitely being there. And if you haven't met her yet, it's definitely important. Being at the appointment, speaking to the doctor, the doctor is going to do the medical assessment on her, and the doctor will talk to you after. And it's so important. Being there with her, if possible, she will know that you are in it. She will know you're there for her. It will be fantastic. So definitely being there. If you can't be there, sending an email. Absolutely. Please send us a message. We work with many clients outside of Canada. And if you're not in the same city as your surrogate or even same country as your surrogate in terms of the fertility clinic, there are absolutely ways to show up. And one of them is to send an email to your nurse, because you likely have a nurse at the clinic prior to your surrogate coming, and putting your surrogate on it. Hi, nurse. I've CC'd my surrogate on this email. She's coming into the clinic tomorrow. I'm so excited to hear how it all goes. I hope you're working tomorrow so you can meet her. Surrogates love that. They love to know that the intended parents are rooting for them, that they're able to be there, that the nurse is able to sort of be the stand-in for the intended parents. So that is another way that if you're not in the same community, you can let your surrogate know that your nurse will show up for her on that day. So screening's done. We're still working through the process. If your surrogate needed to fly into the city where your screening is, while you don't have a legal agreement in place yet, your surrogate has to travel. So we want to make sure that all of those expenses are taken care of. Many surrogates have not traveled on a plane. Many surrogates have not traveled across the country or outside of the country. And so we really talk a lot about, how to show up for the surrogate. So in this case, it would be, maybe she's going to have a travel companion. So maybe she'll have someone fly with her to wherever your clinic is. And so knowing that might be coming, and talking to your case specialist at whatever agency you're with, or if you're doing an independent journey, speaking directly to the surrogate about her expectations around travel. Many intended parents are very private. And so while a surrogate may bring a companion, even if you're in that same city, if she brings her spouse or partner, because blood work's required of the spouse or partner. So often the clinics will say, bring your spouse or partner, we got to get their blood work done and urine test and whatnot. Just know there's no expectation for you to meet the friend. I mean, the spouse or partner, absolutely. It's important. You want to sort of meet this person and feel comfortable that your baby is growing inside of their partner, for sure. But just know if they bring a friend that, again, there's no expectation that you are a tour guide in your city for the friend. And so just meeting the surrogate at the clinic is probably ideal. So we get through the screening part. We now move on to the legal process. The way that you can support your surrogate is to be really upfront. Hey, surrogate, we're going into the legal process. I want you to know that anything in that contract is at the suggestion of the lawyer. And, I welcome and encourage you to speak with your lawyer about any changes you would want to be made. And that's it. If your surrogate starts talking about the contract, well, in the contract it said, really sending her back to her lawyer saying, the contract is a huge document. It shocked me myself. Definitely talk to your lawyer about any questions or concerns. I want to make sure you're comfortable. And that's it. Because if you begin to engage under the guise of you're supporting her, it actually isn't. And we see relationships break all the time. Now, there are times where a surrogate might go, oh, yeah, my contract, my lawyer, and it's something benign. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's important that, you can have a conversation about a contract, but specifics, nitty gritty, definitely refer back to the lawyer, to ensure that, um, you don't sort of cross a line legislatively, Health Canada wise, like, oh yeah, you could have that, because likely she can't, um, and that you also aren't putting yourself in a position, that maybe your lawyer would suggest you not put yourself in. It's really important that, this process is, um, insulated, that your relationship with your surrogate is really insulated. And it can't be insulated if you are going beside the lawyer and talking about the contract with your surrogate directly. Many people do, and they successfully navigate that. And many people don't. And I would never want to advise you to, because if it falls apart, you are now waiting for a new surrogate. And as all of you on this call know, whether you're matched, waiting to be matched, it could be 6 months or 9 months to find a surrogate. And so, or longer. And so we really want to make sure that we are maintaining that insulated relationship. So we move on, contracts occur, everything is great. Contracts are signed. Now, it's time to get pregnant. Like, we're finally there. We're there. And your surrogate says, I've just started a new job. I can't get any time off for 3 months. And you are thinking, oh my God, well, we were what? And it throws you for a minute. Call your agency, call your nurse, call someone that can put it into perspective for you. Okay, so she can't take time off for the first 3 months. When, for me, I get a calendar out and I go, what days of the week does she work? What days of the week does she not work? Let's get this together. And so we do. Okay, she works Monday to Friday, so she can only do an ultrasound on a Saturday or Sunday and a transfer on a Saturday or Sunday. Done. Easy. I can work that out. Sunday is the lining check. Next Saturday is the transfer. All hope isn't lost, but having someone guide you, having someone know, so that when your surrogate says, I just started a job, okay, let me check in, like with my case coordinator, let me check in with someone to figure out how we can accommodate. Cause I know we're all so excited about getting pregnant, right? Right? Yeah. Awesome. Done. So even things that may pop up that seem like, oh my gosh, to just hang on. Your surrogate says she won a trip to Mexico and she wants to go. And you're going, Zika, oh my God, Zika. Well, just know that your surrogate won't be able to travel while she's pregnant. It's in your legal contract. And Zika isn't a thing in lots of areas anymore. So let's find out on a map where she's going. Let's talk to the clinic. Everything is workable. And it's when people begin to feel scared that sometimes we get defensive or we get panicky or we freak out or, all of these things start to happen. And so really just staying calm. Wow, you want a trip to Mexico? Amazing. Let's figure out how we can, keep things moving forward. And you can go to Mexico. We can't wait to hear how your trip was. Because really, what matters is that you've supported her and that you've shown up for her. And it doesn't mean, look, if the doctor says this is a Zika area, it's going to be 6 months till she can transfer. Remember, the first agreement you made is with yourself. And if you're checking your gut and you're going, this is one of many things, I'm out, then your agency needs to support you in saying, I'm out. I'm listening to myself on this. And any agency will be like, absolutely, listen to yourself. And no, it might be 6 to 9 months to get rematched. And then you start all of these things again so that you know what the sort of financial implication, financial implication, the time associated with that implication is. So really to start thinking about that. As you begin the process, as your, screening's done, contracts are done, my number one suggestion to intended parents is to get a box, like, maybe like a box this big. And in the box, in the bottom, put in there any supplements, horse pill vitamins, any teas and tinctures, things that you did during your IVF cycle or your sister's cousin's friend did that was successful. Put those in the bottom. We want them right at the bottom. Nothing else touching the bottom of the box, those things. And then you're going to put in self-care items because we can't buy gifts. It's against the law. We can purchase self-care items. So a robe or soft slippers, some magazines on pregnancy health, women's health, maybe a book about pregnancy and, something like that. Something to entertain her children because that's self-care for her if she has small kids at home. And chocolate. Chocolate always goes on the top because chocolate is amazing. And that way you're supporting her, you're showing up for her, you're sending her something lovely. And your agreement with yourself, which may have been to have a surrogate who is willing to take all these things, you've got that covered because by the time she gets to the bottom of that beautiful self-care package are the vitamins. And she's like, oh my gosh, they love me so much. They sent me all these self-care products and, these special vitamins that, that my intended mother took when she was doing IVF or whatever, right? So really sort of, again, keeping to your agreement while supporting and showing up for someone. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. My nose today is something else, allergies. So, you go for the transfer, maybe you have her have acupuncture before and after as a way to support her if that's something she's up for. And support looks different to everyone. So saying, hey, I did acupuncture during my IVF or my sister's friend, da da da. Would you be up for acupuncture before and after? And if she says yes, amazing. Your agency can set that up or your nurse can set that up. And if she says no, thank you, okay, is there something else I could do to support you before and after your, the embryo transfer? And she might say, I'd like to stay an extra night after my transfer rather than flying right home or driving right home. I find travel really stressful. And that's a way that you could show up for her. And that's a really lovely way that you could show up for her. So, checking in with her, what support looks like. Because some surrogates are all in on acupuncture and all of these things. Other surrogates, supporting them means letting them be quiet, letting them just sort of tuck in for the night at a hotel. Everyone is different. So really, really checking that out. Throughout the pregnancy, I would say communicate often, asking curious questions. I will tell you that I have a handful of intended parents and surrogates at any given time that aren't speaking to each other because intended parents asked her what she had for breakfast. And they thought she wasn't eating well or she was too fat or, all of the stories we tell ourselves around food and worthiness. And nobody knows what to ask. As intended parents, there is no book. You can check in every week. You can ask her what support looks like to her. You can offer to have someone come and help her in the house with the kids because she's been sick. You can do all those things. And if she's not receptive, it doesn't matter. So how are you taking care of yourself if your surrogate isn't accepting your support and help? Again, going back to those agreements. If I'm going to take care of myself so I can take care of her. Because at some point, she will likely take you up on your offers of help. And so she's pregnant, she's puking, it's horrible. Get to an appointment. If you are in the same vicinity, even if you are in Vancouver and she's in Ottawa, get to that first appointment with the obstetrician. Introduce yourself. This is your pregnancy, and it is important you are there. Because if you are not there, two things will happen. You will be reliant on her to provide you updates and information. And two, you will likely have questions that the OB will not answer because they don't know you. But going to that first appointment, hey, my name is Leah and I'm Jesse's intended mom and I'm just so excited to meet you. I understand from my surrogacy agency that that we could all sign something today so that you could speak to me directly. I don't want Jesse burdened with having to provide me with, you know, all the updates. She has enough to do. She's got kids. She's pregnant for me. Like, forget it. That's one way. The other, less supportive way is to call the doctor. I'm Jesse's intended mom. Please send me every note after every appointment. Thank you very much. Here's my phone number. Here's my email address. They don't know you. First of all, they don't know you. They don't know you're Jesse's intended mother. They don't care, because they haven't met you. They haven't seen the connection that you have with your surrogate. They haven't witnessed how beautiful that relationship is. And so expecting your surrogate to give you updates isn't really supporting her. And B, you being proactive in this pregnancy and treating it as your own was likely an agreement you made with yourself that this is going to be my pregnancy, whether it's my eggs, whether it's my uterus. I am going to be the parent of this child. So if you're going to be the parent of this child, you need to show up as the parent of this child, which means going to doctor's appointments. And not every appointment, because listen, we're busy, and we live far away and all of those things. And if you're outside of Canada or really far away from your surrogate, asking your surrogate, like, hey, do you think that I could Skype into the first appointment? I'd love to meet your doctor. I'd love to meet your midwife. And I will tell you, during my own pregnancies, I always had an OB, like an obstetrician. And during COVID, midwives showed up in just such a brilliant way. They allowed people in appointments when doctors didn't. They had intended parents at home births. It was really, really lovely. And so if you live far away and you're wanting a really supportive care provider for your surrogate, I would suggest, considering midwifery care. Does anyone have any questions about that? Okay. Next, we're going through the pregnancy. Your surrogate emotionally isn't doing well. She's exhausted. She's going through family stuff. Her life is busy, and you're starting to get worried. She's not as responsive as she usually is. You have a group chat that she gives a one-word answer in. And you start to wonder if it's like a prenatal depression kind of thing. And so you aren't sure where to go with that. You don't know how to help her. And so you just start to kind of worry. And of course you'd worry. You care about her and you're worried about her health. So with that being said, what do? Where do you go with that information? So my first suggestion always is, if you have a relationship with her spouse or partner, reaching out to them. And that's why sort of in those early stages, it's great to have them in a group chat, maybe the surrogate and her spouse, so that you can have that person's contact details and reach out if needed. Like if you're wanting to send some flowers or you're wanting to just check in, how's Jenny doing? Then you have the husband or wife, the spouse there to buffer that. So all this is going on. You reach out to the spouse and the spouse says, yeah, like she's just not really doing well. I don't know how to support her. It's really tricky. So then you reach out to the agency and you say, hey, Leah, hey, agent, whatever agency you're working with, if you're working with CSC, hey, Leah, I'm really worried about my surrogate. She's just not so responsive and, I don't know how she's doing. So at our agency, we get to work on that. So we have a counselor within our program that's free for you, free for the surrogate. So at that point, we do a couple things. Again, we're going back to the agreement of you taking care of yourself. And we know that's one of the agreements you've made. And so we're going to send you Jan Silverman's link, which is the counselor that we work with. And it's free. I've said that a couple times because I think it's really important that we offer that free service. And I'm going to say, hey, I think you should talk to Jan about your surrogate being distant. I really want to make sure you're taking care of yourself during this time. Because a lot of intended parents are like, I feel so bad. My surrogate's not doing well. And, it's all my fault. And, all of that, right? So at that point, I want to make sure you know that you are responsible for yourself and your surrogate is responsible for herself, and we're going to support her. So you're going to be speaking to Jan. We're going to reach out to her. Hey, anything you need, just wanted to check in, hoping that she's going to tell us. If she doesn't, then the following week, we send an email that appears it goes to everyone at her stage of pregnancy, although we're just sending it to her saying, hey, you're at this stage of pregnancy. We put everyone in touch with Jan at this time. Here's her link. And then we check back 5 days later. Has she made an appointment? She hasn't. Okay. Hey, Jenny, I noticed you haven't made an appointment with Jan. So we've gone ahead and made one for next Wednesday at 2. Does that work? If not, we have Thursday at 6 in the evening. Does that work? We make sure that we are following up with her so that you can focus on yourself and the feelings that are coming up for you based on her not necessarily communicating with you. Really important that you are able to begin to separate throughout your pregnancy, not because you're not going to have a relationship post-birth, but because the relationship during the pregnancy is so close and there is a natural separation after the baby is born. So we want to start sort of preparing for that. I would say around 25 weeks, right? That's when viability is there. And, if your baby came, they would be okay. We want to begin to gently separate and remain close at the same time. So, you're going through the pregnancy, maybe she's talking to the counselor, you're talking to the counselor, things are coming back together. Now it's time to talk about the birth. And your surrogate in the beginning told you that she wanted to pop breast milk for you while you were in her city, and that then she wanted to ship it, and that was all great. And now you're not sure. You're feeling as though it may be a better idea not to accept her milk for whatever reason. I think that it's a personal decision, and, being upfront as early on is important with that. She may decide to pump and donate to a milk bank. She may decide to donate her milk to other intended parents who have a surrogate in that community. I don't know. But being upfront, hey, I know previously we had said we were, curious about you pumping, and we've just decided to feed our baby formula, and we really appreciate your offer. Do not get into some big long thing. Our doctor suggests da 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 da, because that's where the distance comes. Instead of just being direct and clear, it starts that whole thing. And I know for many intended parents, they have somehow talked themselves into support, meaning I'll do whatever my surrogate wants. I'll do anything she wants. And while that's lovely and, we want you to show up for your surrogate, it is also important that you show up for yourself throughout the entire process. And so you're getting updates on the pregnancy, you're checking in with her, you're showing up for her and for yourself. So we start talking about the birth. The doctor says, hey, this baby is upside down, they're breech, we've got to do a C-section. And so she says to you, is it really important that you come into the room? Of course, your first instinct is, of course, I want to be the first person to see my baby and hold my baby and all these things. I want to caution you on that. And I want to just sort of invite you to think about how she is feeling. It's imperative that her alternate decision maker be nearby, possibly in the room, should anything happen in that C-section. And C-sections are routine and, rarely, almost never does anything happen. And if she's anxious about it, she may really, need her spouse or partner, her sister, her doula, her midwife, if there's been a transfer of care and now there's, the OB saying only one person can come in, and it's it's going to be the midwife or whomever her support person is. At that point, I really want to invite you to say to her, "Oh, a C-section. Wow, okay, that's a change in plans. Um, you know, how can we support you?" And that's it. Without a leading question, without you know, I really want to be in there, but I understand, because when you say but, it just erases the rest. And if you have to say you want to be in there because that's just who you are, it could be something like, "I would love to be in the room with you to support you and to meet my baby. And I understand if you aren't up for that. I will not be offended. I'm here to support you." The "and" instead of the "but" is a huge piece, right? Um, and so as you're making those plans, just to really sort of consider that, um, and to know that birth is such a sacred event, and your baby's health and well-being is based on your surrogate's health and well-being. And so if you could have one mantra, whatever, it would be, taking care of my surrogate means taking care of my baby. Honoring my surrogate means honoring my baby. It is so important. So, so important. And I really want to encourage you to lean into that. It becomes really tricky toward the end. Often people are very excited and very nervous, excited and very scared. And I acknowledge that for every one of you listening to this, if you're near that point, to really be able to lean in and touch those places, and to look at where those feelings that you would view as negative, and a feeling's a feeling, right? You know, how they've kept you safe in the past. I will give an example. I give this example very often, that fear has kept me safe. And so when I start to feel afraid, I first go, okay, I'm feeling afraid. I think this is fear. I'm really scared. And then I accept it. I think it's fear. Yeah, it's fear. And then I just take a deep breath and I appreciate it. I appreciate when fear has kept me safe. I appreciate when fear has kept me safe. And for me, I, was walking down a street once. Or in an evening. I was walking down a road, and this is sort of a true thing. And there were these two people walking toward me, and I started getting scared. I don't know why. And I ended up crossing down another street. And as soon as I did, I heard this loud noise. And these two people had robbed a person on the street that was sort of where I was on that street. Fear kept me safe. Now, listen, there are times fear paralyzes me and doesn't keep me safe and keeps me stuck. And in the moment of understanding myself and having some compassion for myself, I choose to appreciate when it kept me safe, so that then as I let go of that fear, it is with love and compassion and kindness to myself, rather than, "I'm afraid, this is crazy. I'm about to have a baby. I should be excited. Why would I be scared? That's nonsense. That's craziness." What? I could beat myself up over here, or I could appreciate, love myself, and honor the fact that I'm having a feeling. Because you know what? Like, that's life. It's full of feelings. And so I want to encourage you, as you are interacting and weaving and bobbing through your surrogacy journey, that as feelings come up for you that you would see as negative or hard, that you're able to, acknowledge the feeling, accept that that really is where you're at, appreciate it, Appreciate when that thing, fear, anger, sorrow, grief, kept you safe, took care of you so that you're able to let it go. And when you're able to do that, you're able to show up for your surrogate in her anxiety, in her fear, in her grief. If you suffer a loss, or when she finds out she has to have a C-section, she's never had surgery in her life. You can show up for her once you've met your agreement with yourself and shown up for yourself. So the birth happens, big day, you've got your baby, and you're just like, and you look over and she's crying. Immediately, you want to set the baby down and run over and tell her it's okay, right? Like when I say that, it makes sense. Like, of course, I got to take care of her. And you don't know that she doesn't just have something in her eye, or that she doesn't have allergies like I do today, or that she's crying because she's so happy to see you with your baby. Supporting her means checking in. She's a grown up. She can tell you how she's doing. There can be a temperature check there. Hey, I noticed you're crying. I'm crying too. Holy shit, this is a big day. I don't even know if I'm excited or scared or sad or happy. I'm just like, oh my God. And she will likely go, I know. I don't know how I'm feeling either, but the tears are coming. And checking in, that temperature checking all the time. Hey, how can I show up for you? If you look up, and this is, uh, I don't know what happened here. Aaliyah, can people still see me because the screen just left? Oh, here we go. Sorry. I don't know what happened there. Um, getting that temperature check. And I always say to like Google 25 ways to support someone, and there's a whole bunch of like things. Keep them as a screensaver. 25 ways to say I love you, 25 ways to say I care. So you're not just saying, how can I show up for you? How can I support you? It's really important. And really having, providing some sense of closure. So writing the letter to your surrogate you give her at the hospital. I always suggest bringing a memento of some type to sort of memorialize the journey. Is really beautiful as well. And support is clear, boundaried communication. Wow. Um, Thank you for being our surrogate and giving us this beautiful gift. We would love to stay in touch with you. And we know we're going to be super busy with a baby. So whenever you want to chat, reach out. We would love to hear from you. And that's it. 45 minutes, me talking the whole time. If anyone has any questions, please put them in the comment section. If you don't have any questions, but you want to email me separately, the recording is going to go out. It'll have my contact details, and I would love nothing more than to connect with you on relationship building with your surrogate. I'll wait for a moment to see if there's any questions. Aaliyah, are there any questions I don't see? No? Okay. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And I hope that you're on a blessed and beautiful journey with your surrogate. Thanks so much.